Beavers, I'm going to show you how to sew your own bookmark and to sew a button on it using a variety of stitches. So to make your Binker bookmark, you're going to need the material, and this has, if you look really closely, lots of small holes in the shape of a bookmark. Your coloured thread, a button, and a needle and some scissors, but they'll be sharp and you'll need an adult to help. So first of all, we're going to put cut some thread and put a knot in the end, and this is so that when you do begin to sew, the knot is going to stop the thread from going through the holes. On the other end of the thread, carefully push the thread through the eye of the needle and pull. So you are ready with the knot on one end and the needle on the other. I'm going to show you how to do a running stitch, and this is a stitch that goes in, out, in, out, in, out. So you're going to first of all start by pushing the needle through the hole and then pulling it gently all the way through until it gets to the knot. Now be gentle. If you pull really hard, the knot will probably pop through the hole. So that's the back of our bookmark, that's got the knot. And now, if you can see the holes, you're going to now push the needle through the next hole. So if I zoom in, if you imagine these are the holes, so you've placed the needle through this hole and you've pushed it through, and then you go down this one and then you go back up through this hole, and it'll make a running stitch like that. So let's have a go with the smaller holes. So go back down and pull it gently. Can you see the material has stopped? You're going to now push the needle back under. Now you might need to turn it this way so you can see, and you place the needle into the next hole. You might be able to see a bit clearer as we go further along because the knot is in the way at the moment. And you pull it gently, and then you turn it back to the right side of the needle, the bookmark, and place the needle in the next hole. And you keep going in, out, in, out. When you get a bit more experienced and a bit more confident, you might not need to keep turning it over. I'll just demonstrate. Placing the needle through, pull it gently, and then you're going to go back down. And you're going to keep doing this all the way to the top. Well, I am, you don't have to. And I think this would make a really nice border for your bookmark. I'm almost at the top. I'm going up and back through. Can you see this lovely pattern that I've made? Now you can choose any way to do the running stitch. Like I said, I'm doing it so it goes all around the border, around the edge. You might want to write some letters, like the letter of your name, your initial. You might want to do a picture, or just practice the running stitch and make a nice pattern. If you do want to finish, you can finish two ways. You can cut the thread and tie a knot at this end, so you have a knot here and here. Or if you are carrying on to sew all the way around the end, you may like to just cut this thread and change colour. So you could do a different colour and running stitch further around. So I've chosen red to carry on with my sewing, and you using an adult, asking an adult to sew your two colours together, if you're choosing to do two colours, and tie them together. Oh, best place it down on the table, then it wouldn't move around so much. It's a bit fiddly. So tie those two together, and then I need to thread my needle onto my new colour thread, and then I can carry on. So this is my neat side, and the knots on the other side are my not so neat, my slightly messy side. So I'm going to carry on my running stitch along. You might need to turn it round to see where the holes are. And keep going along. So I've done my running stitch all the way here, and that's in red. It looks really good. Now you may want to choose to make your line a solid line, so there aren't any bits, any gaps. So going back to this piece of paper, what you would do then is go back the other way and then fill in. So you go up here, back down, and under, back up and down. So you're doing the same thing, but the other way. So let me demonstrate with the smaller holes. So I'm coming back down to fill these gaps. So I'll place my needle in this hole. And then if I turn it over, I'll place my needle in the next hole. Can you see how it's turning into a solid line? Turn it back over, and my needle in the next hole, and you're doing the same thing, but just the other direction. So that's another stitch where you might want to do a solid line, and just practice. Like I say, you might like to do your initials, and if you want to do your initials, the solid line would look really good. You might want to do a picture. Think of your favourite book. Maybe if you want a real challenge, you could sew the name or the initials of your favourite book. Can you see how there are no gaps here? I've just got one more to fill. My thread is on this side, so I'll turn it over. Turn it back onto my neat side. I've just got, I've got two more. And then I might do one more just to join it onto my black. So I'll just push. It's not massively clear because of the knot, but you'll see it peeks out the other end. I've got my last one here. So those are two different ways of sewing a line. So I'd like to show you one more stitch, and it's called the cross stitch. You may have seen it or heard of it. If I just draw using the big dots so it's a bit clearer, and then we'll have a go at sewing on our bookmark. So a cross stitch is if you imagine a square, and the corners of the square are the 4 dots. It could be anywhere, but I'm going to visualize a square here. This is where I'd like my cross to be, and you are literally sewing from here across to the next hole, and then across to the next one to form a cross. And if you keep doing the sewing, you keep sewing crosses, it forms a thicker line. So I'm going to use black thread so it stands out and you can see it clearly. I've threaded my needle. I have a knot on one end, my needle on the other, and I'm going to make sure that my knot is on my messy side of my bookmark, and that's the neat side. So just as I've shown you the crosses here, I'm going to do the same on here. So I'll start by pushing the needle up. I need to have a little peek on the other side, and that's to make sure that my knot is not on the neat side, it's on the other side. Remember, don't pull it too tightly because it will pull through the hole. So I'm going to go across diagonally to the next hole. So push my needle down. Can you see that's diagonal? And then you might need to turn it over for a peek of where to put the needle. and then you go across again. Now wool is quite thick, and so it makes quite a fat cross, and with lots of crosses together it makes quite a fat line. I'm going to go all the way across my bookmark. So here is my bookmark with the cross stitch. Can you see that it's like a big fat line, but if you look really closely you might be able to see the crosses. Have a good look on yours. So we've practiced 3 different kinds of stitches, and remember that sewing takes time, and you're probably going to accidentally pull the thread out the needle, or you're going to drop things, or put the thread through the wrong hole, but that's fine. It all takes time and practice, and we all make mistakes, but keep at it and you will be so proud of your bookmark when you've finished sewing it. When you've finished your pattern, you may like to add a button, and this is the very last thing I'm going to show you to do, and then I look forward to seeing all of your amazing bookmarks. So here is my button. It has 4 holes. Not all buttons have 4 holes, some have 2, and we can apply our cross stitch to our button sewing. So I have my 3rd colour with a knot on the end. I've threaded the wool through the needle and I'm ready to go. Remember that the knot goes on the messy side, so I'm going to decide first of all where to place my button. I think it would look really good there. So I'm going to push my needle through my bookmark, ready. Oops, did you see what happened then? I pulled it too tight and my knot went straight through the hole. Let's have another go. Do it gently. Okay, and now I'm ready to sew my button on. So I'm going to put my needle through the hole. There are 2 sides to this button. One has a ridge and the other one is dead flat. I want the really flat bit to be touching the material. And you place your needle through one of the holes. It needs a little bit of a persuasion, a little bit of a tug because it's a bit fatter on one end of the needle. And then hold your button in place. And like I said, we're going to do the cross stitch style over the button. So I'm going to go across to the next hole and then push through the material and then give it a little pull so it's made a nice cross. And then I'm going to place my needle through the other side, which will be roughly behind. There we go. Can you see it peeking through? And I'm going to pull the needle, give it a bit of a wiggle. It definitely does go through. There we go. And then we can go across the other direction. If you want it to be really secure, you can do that a few times. Or if you think that's enough, then turn your bookmark the other way around and then you can tie a knot, or you could even attach this thread to your knot that's already there and sew that, tie it on together, not sew it, tie it together. Ask an adult because it is fiddly. And then there you have your button. I think that looks great. I didn't mean to choose the green for the purple, but actually they look really good together, don't they? So Beavers, good luck with your sewing. Remember, it takes patience and time and determination, but you can do it.